Hey everyone, welcome to part 21 of my fist only, no armor, no ranged weapons and no deaths playthrough of Demon Souls. Continuing through the Swamp of Sorrow, here I'm dealing with the Depraved Shaman and his two giant Depraved 1 bodyguards. My plan was to lure each one of them out one by one and fight them on this little strip of land here. Well, not so much of a plan as doing the only thing I really could do. Without having the Sodden Ring on, there really was no way I could fight these giants in the swamp. My biggest concern really was that he might hit me and knock me into the swamp. If he did that, it'd basically be a death sentence. That's why I tried to stay between the logs here. So if he did hit me, he would knock me into the logs rather than into the swamp. And that's why I backed off just there to make sure that's what would happen. That little green glowing dude is the shaman. Now I was hoping to be able to lure out the next giant on his own, but as soon as I saw the shaman running out and the giant, I knew I was going to have to probably deal with both of them at once. That said, it didn't really matter. My only chance of defeating them without putting myself at risk of death was to fight around these logs. And fortunately for me, I managed to lure this giant to the other side of the log, so it was just a case of trying to leave him there because he was too stupid to walk around them and just in and out until he was dead. The only thing I didn't know at this point though was whether or not the shaman was coming up behind me, and I was worried about that because I couldn't remember what his magical powers were. I knew he could kill me pretty easily because he did kill me. From memory, I'm sure he was the one that killed me here in my first playthrough. And I wasn't sure if maybe he might come up behind me and just blast me with some magic that I wasn't prepared for. But he didn't. He got himself trapped. You can see him over there, stuck, or just hanging out. So that was pretty good. And it turned out he was super weak. I was really scared of fighting that dude. I couldn't remember what he did. I knew he had magic and I knew he had poison abilities. But it turned out he ended up being no different to, in fact, easier than just about any other enemy I'd faced here, so that was pretty funny in the end. Now, I could have proceeded forward through that fog door. The way to the next area of the map was open, but I also, because I'd seen the slugs before, I also knew that this scaffolding up and around on the left would lead to that giant slug nest, which if you cut it down leads to you getting a weapon. Couldn't remember what the weapon was, but in trying to do as much of the game as possible, I had to do this, had to complete this before moving on. Unfortunately, I kind of got hassled really bad by these annoying mosquitoes, which are so difficult to fight with fists. You can't get close enough to them, and if they attack you from just outside of your fist range, they just kind of warp onto your back and then they stun you and leave you vulnerable. Really annoying enemies to fight with fists. Also, if anyone knows any different than me, I don't think there's anything out in that whole area that I'm facing right now, so I didn't go out there. But if there is, feel free to let me know in the comments, but I didn't think there was anything out there, so I didn't go out there. If you haven't been watching this series from the start, the reason I have a shield out is I'm not using any shields in this playthrough whatsoever. I'm only using the Adjudicator shield for its passive healing abilities, and I just forgot to put it away there. I always put it away when I fight enemies. I've only forgotten once or twice, but yeah. No shields or armor in this playthrough. This is some silly gameplay of me right here. I'm hitting this slug with my right arm, my claws, which pushes you forward and almost threw me off that ledge. Had I fallen off there, I would have died, and that would have been the end of my no-death playthrough. What I should have been doing is punching that slug with my left hand. Here it's fine because it's only pushing me into a wall. But yeah, that was really... I don't even know why I did that. Watching that in hindsight, that was scarier to me now than apparently it was when I was playing. In fact, I think I was taking this whole slug nest very, very casually, considering one slight misstep and I would have fallen to my death. I mean, I was going to get nothing out of this. I was purely doing it for completionist reasons, but yeah, I don't remember like worrying at all about falling to my death at this point, which is probably why I almost did a moment ago. I'd have to say leaping onto the ledge with those slugs was also a pretty bold move. Definitely taking this section way too casually. But it all turned out well in the end, I guess, so I must have been feeling in the zone and feeling fine about it at the time. I know I wasn't feeling casual about trying to get this weapon that you can get after knocking down the slug nest though. Normally what you would do with all the slugs here is put some fire on a weapon, or you even use fire bombs, but there's so many slugs here. There's just no way I was going to be killing all of these slugs with my claws. I didn't want to spend all my time here trying to kill them anyway. I just wanted to get that weapon. So ultimately here, I'm not really trying to kill them. I'm just trying to lure some of them away, to make them chase me, to create a gap so that I can just run in, steal that weapon, and leave. I didn't want to stay here for the next 10 minutes trying to kill slugs. And of course, that's the large sword of Moonlight. I don't know how I could have forgotten that that weapon was right there with the slug nest. It's one of the most sought after weapons in the game, really. So yeah, I should have remembered that. But not a weapon I'm going to use in this run. This run's all about fists, so off to storage it goes. So that's the first two areas of the Swamp of Sorrow completed. And time to move on to the next, through the fog wall. I kind of remembered this area pretty well from my first playthrough. It's a little bit confusing to look at, but it's not too bad. Once again, the filthy woman moves from the previous area, from the Leechmonger area to here as you move on. Good idea to buy some Noble's Lotus for poison, and maybe some Widow's Lotus for plague, especially considering plague is a big issue in the next area. Didn't really need anything else from her though.
Finished already? I only want my dear boy to be happy.
This whole area is basically just messy scaffolding all the way up to the boss room. There's a bunch of these depraved ones, these plague doctor looking dudes around the place. You just have to watch out that they don't ambush you in a group, but apart from that, I knew I just had to work through this slowly and methodically, picking up whatever items there were, making sure not to rush forward and get ganked, and yeah, not a very difficult area, this one at all. And now look at my health. That's what you get when you say an area is not very difficult at all. When you take something casually that can kill you in an instant if you're not careful, that's what you get. So this shouldn't be a difficult area at all. But yeah, you're still going to be on your toes, I guess, because those enemies can... I mean, if you got ganked by 2 or 3 of those enemies and they decided to do that swiping multi-swipe rush move of theirs that he just did to deplete my health, well, you'd die straight away. So when I say not a very difficult area at all, it doesn't mean that the area can't kill you. You can die at any point, in any way in Demon Souls. That's the nature of Souls-like games. There's always a risk. And the funny thing is, I was being pretty casual at this stage. I'd already come way further than I had expected to, trying to do a no-death run in my second ever playthrough. I honestly did not expect to have made it this far. And the further I got, the more casual I got, although in reality, it should have been the other way around. The further I got, the more tense and stressed I should have been getting. But I guess I was getting more familiar with playing the character this way, and I was getting more familiar with playing the game in a kind of methodical, think through every stage, slow moving type of way, which is how I've played this, which is in opposition to how I normally play. I normally play, well, in some games I'll play slow because I like to explore and find everything, but mostly I tend to speedrun games to bosses because I get the biggest kick out of fighting bosses. That's why most of what I do is boss guides. So I don't usually play games like this. I normally really go as fast as I can unless I'm specifically exploring. In a sense, it kind of made this relaxing to play this way. I kind of feel like this is relaxing, and as a result I started to play relaxed as well as being relaxed. And the other reason is the more I played through, the more I was remembering areas. Like, I remembered this area pretty well. I got fairly confused in it to start with, but in my first playthrough, I mean. But coming back to it now, I was fairly relaxed here and fairly familiar with it. And the more I played through Demon Souls this way, the more each area was becoming familiar to me. There was a lot of things I didn't learn in my first playthrough, but I was still pretty comprehensive, so I knew most of it. And in fact, there's a lot of things that I have to do in the future in upcoming videos, pure white world tendency events, and most of those I didn't even remember when I first started this run, and as I've progressed through, my memory has been getting clearer and clearer. And at this stage of the game, I was well aware of a lot of things that I had to go back in other areas to do once I got to pure white world tendency in those areas. And the only reason I haven't done some of them at this point, apart from... I do have a couple of areas that are pure white world tendency right now, I think. But the reason I haven't done them is I wanted to do one run. I wanted to do all the pure white world tendencies towards the end of my game before I beat the final boss. So that was something I was planning, and I was in my head at this stage just piecing together how I would do that and the order in which I would do that as I became more and more familiar with all of the levels. So right at this stage, I actually do have a bit of an idea as to what I intend to do further on in this run as far as pure white world tendency goes. But it was still forming as I hadn't completed all the levels yet. But yeah, that was another reason why I was playing more casual and was feeling more and more relaxed, because as the game went on, I just was remembering more and more of it. And I have to say, I was really actually quite excited to try and do all pure white world tendency events in one run. And when I say all of them, I mean all of the pure white world tendency events that I was aware of, or that I could remember, or that would come back to me the more I completed the game. But since I'd been leaving them all and not doing any, like I could have done some in some of the worlds that I already have pure white tendency in, I just thought it would make a really cool part in this series if I did it all one after the other. And also would add to the challenge. Another reason I wanted to do it that way is some of the pure white world tendencies are quite challenging, and it would have been, my idea was it was going to be an awesome challenge to just do them one after the other. The idea of running from one world to the next to complete the pure white world tendency challenges just seems so damn cool to me and so challenging to me that yeah, that wasn't something I was going to miss the opportunity to do in this playthrough. But again, that's for a future video. You'll have to stay tuned to see how I do that particular challenging part of this run. For now, I'm still on my way to the Putrid boss, aka the Dirty Colossus. Oh yeah, that's right. This is the way to open the shortcut from the bonfire at the start of the Swamp of Sorrow to where I was just a moment ago. I had absolutely zero reason to go this way. On a no-death run, there'd be no reason for me to come back this way. However, as part of making sure that I was completing as much of the game as possible, I decided to do it, and also on the chance that there might be some more souls for me this way. But again, got hassled by these damn mosquitoes, which always manage to fly just out of the range of what I have with my fists. And then when they do get slightly close enough to be hit by my fists, they just immediately warp onto my back. Really, really frustrating enemy to deal with fists, that's for sure. You just can't get them. I think here from memory I just decided to leave them, yeah. I just ran away from them. They were just so annoying to me. Really don't like the mosquitoes. Maybe next run I do, I'll allow myself raged weapons or something. I was considering doing a dagger only run and allowing myself to use throwing daggers as part of it. But yeah, these guys are too annoying not to use ranged weapons, I think. In the future, at least. This was a heart-stopping moment. This Mozzie who dropped me right here in front of the ledge, and then the enemy that came rushing forward, fortunately he went straight through me because you can't be struck while the Mozzie has you. But had that not been the case, and I didn't know that was the case at that point, then he could have knocked me off to my death and that would have been the end of it. So really I was lucky to be able to continue my playthrough by virtue of the fact that once a Mozzie has you, you can't be hit. But my heart stopped because I didn't know that. I actually thought that was the end right there. Just add it to the list of many, many lucky moments. And you know, the more times I see the amount of luck I've had in this run, it really makes me want to do another run purely based on trying to get through with skill alone and no luck. Not that I'm sure I can do that yet. Not familiar enough with the game, but yeah, I would at some point in the future like to do a run that I can say, hey, I got through that and it didn't need any luck. Maybe I'll make a character and I'll just invest in the luck stat, which has absolutely no bearing on any of that, but I don't know. The irony would be funny if I made a character with just luck to get through without luck. Again there, I was only doing left-handed punches to make sure that A, I could hit that enemy, but B, I didn't hit the enemy with my claws and then end up rolling off to my death. Oh yeah, you can see that little outcrop of rock with some items on it down the left there, with a bunch of enemies on it. In the last part, I stared at them and ignored them. I didn't want to go over near them. From looking at them up here, that was a really good idea. There wasn't enough land to roll on without the sodden ring. I would have been stuck fighting them in the swamp, and I think there were two giants there, so that would have meant certain death for sure. I would have been killed there for sure. So in hindsight, it was a really good decision not to go over and try to get those items. You know, I have to say, applying this type of challenge to this playthrough has made me really take note of the environment, look for threats, and really think through how I'm going to deal with each step of my gameplay. And the result of that is it's helped me learn the game so much better than my first playthrough did. And even in my first playthrough, I was still pretty comprehensive in exploring and trying to learn how the game works. But it certainly didn't help me learn the game like I've learnt it by playing through this way. I'm pretty sure thanks to playing it through this way, my next run is going to be so much easier and so much faster. It makes me wonder if maybe I should do gameplays in the future where I just play through with some arbitrarily decided challenge and narrate them after the fact, exactly like I'm doing with this one. It's kind of enjoyable to play this way, and kind of enjoyable to narrate it after the fact too, to watch your own gameplay and describe what you were feeling and thinking at the time, and also learn from watching your own gameplay as you do that. It's pretty cool, actually. I like it. There is one weird thing about this particular section though. In my first playthrough, there was 100% a giant depraved one up here. A giant troll, and he was a handful for me in my first playthrough to deal with up on these platforms. I remember fighting him, and I was totally expecting him to be here when I came around this time, but that's what I'm doing right now actually. I'm just looking around to see, is he around? Where is he? He was about here when he attacked me in my first playthrough, but there was absolutely no sign of him in this one. I don't know why. I don't know if he was not meant to be there in my first playthrough, or if he maybe fell down and as a result of falling off the ledges, I just never saw him in this one. But yeah, I was very surprised that the giant depraved one I had to deal with in my first playthrough just wasn't here in the second, so I don't know what that's about. I can't recall if he was a Black Phantom version or not. I somehow feel he was glowing red in my first playthrough. I can't remember exactly, but maybe, I don't know, because I died a lot or something, he was there. Yeah, I really don't remember, but I definitely remember I had to fight a giant depraved one up here. 100%. He killed me like twice before I got past him. He was very annoying. He's just not here in this playthrough. So that's me thinking I'm done with the area, and this is the fog wall to the Dirty Colossus boss fight. I had to make sure here that I was healed up, so I pulled out the Adjudicator shield just to speed that up a little bit and save me from having to use any grass. I also wanted to go into my inventory to make sure I had some pine resin and had the right rings equipped. I had some black pine resin, which I think is better than normal pine resin or whatever. I don't really know. Either way, that was what I wanted equipped because I knew he was weak to fire. And I also wanted to lighten my item burden here to make myself lighter, but I now know in hindsight that doesn't do anything. Only your equipment weight affects your movement speed. And yeah, so with all that said, I'm about to fight the Dirty Colossus. However, I'll show that at the start of the next part because this is already over 25 minutes. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.